Hey everyone, as requested by a lot of you, I'm going to be reviewing this video called 25 Non-Negotiables for Longevity That Scientists Agree On by Thomas DeLauer. I already reviewed a video of his around a year ago. He actually also commented on it, saying that he sometimes watches my videos. Just so you know, I have nothing against you, man. How could I? I don't even know you. It's just that I discussed this topic of longevity and aging a lot on my channel, which is why it's perfect for it. I'm probably not going to go through all of the 25 points, seeing as it would end up being an hour-long video. I'm going to go through the most important ones.
These are my 25 easiest non-negotiables for longevity and just overall health. Now, the interesting thing is there's going to be a fair bit of fat loss stuff sprinkled into this as well. Why? Well, not just because everyone wants to be lean and this and that. No, because when you look at the literature and some of
not everybody wants to be that lean. Again, nothing against you, but seeing as we're talking about the topic of longevity and aging, you do look a lot older than me, and we are almost the same age. Your body fat is probably too low. You have lost a lot of collagen, and that's because of the excessive working out, seeing as it depletes your collagen, obviously. Your cortisol is always high. That's just naturally what happens when you're exerted. That's what exercise is there for, to exert you, to stress you. Stress ages you. That's biochemistry 101. I'm sure that you understand it.
The top longevity experts in the world that I've interviewed on this channel, they all mention that having lower body fat, not low body fat, but lower body fat, is going to be a huge, instrumental piece in a longer, healthier life.
They are probably talking about correlation studies where you can see that if somebody is overweight, then they will not live as long. Of course, that's because their diets are horrible. And then if you eat a better diet and you go for a walk or whatever, then your body fat is going to be lower, seeing as you're generally living a healthier life, and then they are going to correlate it to lower body fat. It doesn't actually have anything to do with it as such. It's just that if you eat a better diet, you're going to have a better weight. If you eat completely naturally, then your weight is going to be perfect, so to speak, naturally the way it's supposed to be. That's all that this is about, just some correlations. They try to link it to lower body fat.
The inflammation, things like that, all stems a lot of times from excess adipose tissue. So let's go ahead and jump.
Not in itself, except if it's of course made up of hydrogenated vegetable oils. If you would gain a lot of fat with raw milk and just natural foods, then it wouldn't be an issue. But of course, again, you can correlate it to these people because they eat a horrible diet. And this kind of unnatural fat, so to speak, is of course inflammatory to the body, obviously.
Right into my 25 non-negotiables. Now, a lot of these things are going to be focused on the positive. I don't want to sit here and give you 25 rules. I don't want to make this negative. There are some rules in here and things to limit, but more it's things to do. Number one, and I mentioned this first, and I know it's not the most exciting, but I want to get it out there because everyone should hear it, and skip it if you need to. Whatever you do, it needs to be sustainable. It needs to have your mental health in mind, and relationships are the most important. I really think that that is the foundation. If your mental health and your relationships are not in place, none of the other stuff that I talk about can really make as big of a difference. It can make a difference, absolutely, but it can make significantly more of a difference if you have the foundation of mental health set in place. So for longevity and health, that is absolutely number one. Now we get into the more tactical stuff. Number two, prioritize, always prioritize, non-exercise activity thermogenesis over anything else. What does that mean? It means if you could just move a bunch throughout the day or have 1 hour of a dedicated workout and then be sedentary the rest of the day, bar none, pick being active all day. Your non-exercise activity thermogenesis burns significantly more calories.
But you don't want thermogenesis. You don't want to in any way heat up your body because that always means aging. That's why you want to stay cool, so to speak. You want to be relaxed and calm. If somebody would lay around all day, they would age the least. If somebody goes for a walk when they want to, that's all fine. If you do what you want to, it's all good because you're listening to your body, your biochemistry, your hormones. But if somebody works out against their will, however long it is, then it's always going to be bad for them. You don't want to be burning your calories. You don't want to be in an anabolic state also, which is obviously the kind of lifestyle that you are living. You also don't want to be in a catabolic state. You simply want to maintain, be calm, cool. That's the way to longevity. It's when you don't overheat your body, or if you don't heat it up at all, that's ideal.
Then your workouts do. You can burn close to 1,000, depending on the person, much more in the way of non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Most people...
Yes, but this is something that you don't want to do, because the more food you eat, the faster you age. The best that you can do for longevity is do as little as possible. Again, do what you want to do, but if you don't want to do something, then don't do it. Never force yourself to do something, and then you will be eating a lot less food. What he's recommending is that you should be eating a lot and burning a lot of calories. If you're going to tell me that he's not recommending that, then it's nonsense, because you can't recommend burning calories and at the same time also not eating a lot. You're going to need to eat then also, except if he's talking about very overweight people, but it's as if he's giving this general advice, and this kind of advice doesn't work for longevity. The advice for longevity would be don't eat a lot and don't do a lot.
Number 3, nutrient quality first, calories second. And I am going to get destroyed for saying this, but it needs...
Why would you get destroyed for saying this? Or what is he going to say? Because that's exactly what I talk about always. You need to eat very nutrient-dense foods, as in micronutrient-dense foods, and that way you will be eating a lot less macronutrients, the calories. Otherwise, you're going to be overeating, which is what most people do today, especially on carbohydrates. They spike their insulin, and insulin is a growth hormone, which is an aging hormone. Growth hormones are aging hormones. And then you age, of course, obviously, because you're spiking your insulin nonstop all day long. Most people eat 3, 4, even 500 grams of carbohydrates a day. It's insane.
Context. We should always have calories in mind. Calories matter. Calories are the mathematical way that we can look at, hey, you're eating too little or eating too much. 100% understand that. But if nutrient quality is there, then satiety is there.
Exactly. This is his best point by far. It's actually really the best way to increase your lifespan and to age slowly. And the best foods that you can eat for nutrient-dense foods are animal organs and blood. If you would be mainly eating brain, liver, spleen, testicles, drinking blood, eating a lot of animal fat, little to no muscle meat, then you would live the longest possible life. Really, there's nothing else that's going to prolong your life as much as food, obviously, especially when eating nutrient-dense food, because you're going to be consuming way less calories. Whereas somebody who eats vegetables, rice, overcooked lean meat, they're going to be eating tons of calories, especially carbohydrates.
And you're less likely to overeat, period. If your body is getting what it needs and you focus on that and you don't eat...
Exactly, you don't have any food cravings then anymore. You're actually satiated. Yeah, really good advice. He's of course not recommending the best foods. He showed a salad or something with an egg. The egg is good.
The hyperpalatable garbage, you will not overeat. It's going to be significantly harder. And there is data to back that up. When people or animals eat refined, processed stuff, ad libitum, they will eat more. When you do that in a whole food fashion, it's very hard to really overeat. So focus on nutrient quality and let calories come second. I do feel that when we have too much emphasis on calories, it messes with our heads. Because then you're fighting, as Dr. Ben Bickman mentioned, you're fighting against hunger, which is a war that you will never, ever win. That is your biological system that is so much more deeply powerful than your willpower. You're not going to win that one. Number 4.
It was a good point, as I said, but he doesn't actually recommend nutrient-dense foods. That's the problem. He showed photos of plants, which are the least nutrient-dense foods. Really, there's hardly any nutrients to speak of, especially in vegetables. Besides seeds, it's the least nutritious so-called food there is, and some kind of green leaves are not human food anyway, so calling it food is already a lie. People will listen to him, understand the point to an extent, but will not actually understand what they are supposed to eat. That's the problem here. So even though it was a good point, people don't even get it.
Number 8, I know it's contrarian and cool to say the vegetables are bad, but deep leafy greens are good.
Oh my God, man.
They just are. Things like
They just are. Give an argument, give something, some kind of reasoning.
broccoli.
It's also funny how he shows these very overcooked green leaves because you don't want to eat them raw.
Yes, there may be some oxalate in broccoli, sure. But
Sulforaphane also, that's a poison. There's also goitrogens, which are super bad for your thyroid. Broccoli is a flower, in case you don't realize it. A lot of people don't. Humans are obviously not supposed to be eating flowers. That's why most animals, especially meat-eating animals, react horribly to it. They want to throw up. And it's the same for humans, except that we get brainwashed to eat it. It's the same for you, Thomas. If you smell it, especially when it's cooked, when the sulforaphane is leaving it, you hate it. You basically want to throw up, and you know it. But you talk yourself into believing that it's good for you because that's what you've been taught.
the sulforaphane is one of the most powerful compounds that we can consume in
Yes, it's powerful because it's very poisonous.
today's diet. So deep green broccoli, deep leafy greens. Yes, you should limit things like spinach because of the oxalates. I agree.
There's oxalic acid in a lot of them, but also the other poisons which I mentioned. The point is that you shouldn't be eating that at all, seeing as you hate it. You hate everything about it, the texture, the taste. We are just not made to eat flowers and green leaves. And you know that. Everybody on earth knows that. The only people who eat them are brainwashed. That's it. They know it, their senses tell them not to, but they still do it because they've been manipulated to do it. There's nothing else to it.
There are other leafy greens. There's arugula. There's low oxalate greens. Just because...
Why would you be consuming oxalates at all? It can lead to kidney stones.
some greens have high oxalate, which we'll talk about later, doesn't mean all greens are bad. I am still in the camp that greens are probably good.
Probably. At least he says probably. Maybe because of the video that I made. I'm not gonna give myself that much credit here, who knows. There's just something in these people that can't let go of vegetables, especially green leaves and flowers. That's the craziest part.
In fact, I eat a lot of them and I do think they're good.
Why? Just give one reason. Give a reason yourself, or give a so-called study, not that they are scientific, even if it's some correlation. It would just be interesting to take your argument apart, so to speak, because you give nothing, and all that I can tell you is that there's all of these toxins inside, that you hate the taste, the texture, you hate everything about it, but without giving a reason yourself, there's nothing that I can respond to.
Number 16, be cognizant of oxalates. They are a real thing. Our body will create oxalates, but we cannot clear them. Does that mean you need to be afraid of almonds and be afraid of spinach? Heck no, consume them.
Why? Literally why? I hope that he will give some kind of reason as to why you should be eating seeds or green leaves and flowers or whatever he's going to say, because it's not human food. Nobody in nature eats it. All of this stuff has been cultivated, meaning that it doesn't even exist in nature. Broccoli really has been around for a few decades.
But don't go insane on it, because they don't really leave your body. Oxalates can build up in the kidneys. They absolutely do. When I had Dr. J.
Yes, of course. That's why you shouldn't be consuming anything with oxalates whatsoever. And there is no natural food for humans which has this toxin.
Jacob Torres on here talking. He's a kidney scientist. Oxalates are a very real issue, very real thing. Okay? And they don't clear, and they do build up. They build up in your blood and in your joints, and eventually can cause problems. So be cognizant of high oxalate foods and just reduce them and replace them with other things. Replace spinach with arugula, etc.
Yes, but why? Why? Why would you eat arugula at all? Why is he not giving one reason? There's just no need to eat green leaves.
Etc. Number 17.
And that's it. And again, we just got no reason whatsoever. This is when you can know that you're brainwashed as a human being. It's when you believe something, you cannot explain it, and I believe that that's the case here. If you would actually ask him, he wouldn't be able to tell you why. It's when you religiously, blindly believe something, and if somebody asks you, you cannot really say why. You should really be aware of this in your life. If that ever happens, then you know that you've been brainwashed about a topic. And in this case, really, it seems like the definition of brainwashing. It's just what you've been always told by the media, maybe in your school, that you should be eating vegetables, flowers, even though you hate them. You cannot explain why.
Don't fear caffeine.
You shouldn't necessarily fear it. You shouldn't fear any food as such, but you should for sure not be consuming caffeine because it's a toxin.
Now, I say this because caffeine, really, the studies demonstrate, hey, people that consume caffeine.
What does it demonstrate?
Caffeine have less frailty because they're more active. I would rather.
They have less frailty because they are more active, as in people get caffeinated, work out, and then you somehow again create a correlation with being less frail, healthier. Oh my God, this is just...
You be active, but consume caffeine from natural sources. Then you're getting it in...
There are no natural food sources for humans which have caffeine. That's kind of the whole point. Caffeine is found in some green leaves together with theobromine, another very potent toxin which can be deadly. It's deadlier for dogs, but humans can also die from it. It's not that hard to overdose on it. Seeds, of course, obviously. So again, exactly what you're not supposed to be eating. The same with the oxalates. You just shouldn't be consuming it whatsoever, but he just makes the case for eating it in smaller amounts or eating these seeds and green leaves which have smaller amounts of oxalates or caffeine and theobromine, which he probably won't even mention, instead of not eating that at all. It sounds like some kind of addiction, brainwashing, like he can't snap out of it, like he can't just say, no, let's only eat natural food. There's no need for green leaves and seeds.
It's full spectrum, full matrix form. Green tea with protective antioxidants.
No, come on, man. Look into antioxidants. Then you could say the same about these toxins such as theobromine, but they only protect the plants themselves. It's defense mechanisms of the plants, so you don't eat them. Again, this is very well understood. It doesn't really take much research to understand this. It's not antioxidants for your own body. The antioxidants in your own body are cholesterol, which I'm sure you're aware of, glutathione, testosterone itself actually also.
Coffee with protective antioxidants. Green tea with a little bit more naturally occurring theanine, right? So you've got these things that are going to allow you to buffer versus having an energy drink that's pure like synthetic caffeine. Number 18, do fasted workouts. I will die on...
A horrible idea, especially for aging, because you're going to be eating yourself. Fasting is starving. It's the same thing. They just use a different word for it so that people do it. If you would call it starved workouts, then you would think twice about it. Generally, if you would replace fasting with starving, then over 90% of people would stop it right away. They just call it something else. It's a way to manipulate you through language, and that's why people still keep doing nonsense like this.
This hill, that a fasted workout is beneficial. You are in a nutrient-deprived state.
Yes, exactly, which is when you eat yourself. And when you eat yourself, you're high on stress hormones, and of course, you eat up your own cells, which by definition is aging.
So of course, the stimulus when you train is going to be harder. Your body is going to adapt faster and harder. And I know from a weight loss perspective, people say, well, it's equal if you eat before or not. In the short term, I'm sure that's true. But long term, the metabolic changes that you make training fasted over weeks, over months, over years, over decades, oh, that adds up. Trust me.
Yes, of course, because you don't have any food inside of you, not much circulating in your blood, and then you have a lot of stress on top of that, meaning that you will have to tap into your fat for energy. If you would want to lose weight, if you were really overweight, you would lose weight quicker, obviously. But for somebody who's at a normal weight already, it's detrimental. It's going to create a lot of wrinkles.
Number 19, treat sunlight like a vitamin. Period. Enjoy sunlight. Don't overdo it. You wouldn't overtake vitamin D, would you? You wouldn't overtake vitamin C, would you? Okay, so you're not going to go.
Your body is going to produce as much vitamin D as it needs. But he's talking about supplements, I get it, but it doesn't apply to the sun.
Go out in the sun, bake, and just be an idiot. But you are.
Yes, of course, it depends on your skin type, where you live, how strong the sun is, but you can clearly yourself tell if you listen to your senses when you're getting a sunburn. It's nothing complicated.
You're going to go out and you say, hey, I haven't gotten enough today. I need to go soak up some sun. Or I need to get a little more tomorrow because I didn't get enough yesterday. If you treat it like that, it all falls into place. We need to stop the over-glorification of sun and stop the demonization of the sun. It is
good. I like it. Number 3 was a good point, except that you didn't explain it well as to what foods you're supposed to eat. And this one is a good point. That's about it.
What it is, and we will have periods of it, and we will not. Number 20, when in doubt, eggs. Eggs have almost everything you need. You could probably survive on eggs. So when in doubt...
You can survive on eggs, but you can't thrive on eggs. Still, of course, totally a good food for sure. Maybe not so much the eggs of today because of the way they raise the animals, but generally, especially wild eggs, yeah, a great source of pretty much everything, just in smaller amounts. That's why you can't thrive on eggs, of course.
Get the eggs. When in doubt, a hard-boiled egg. That is a cardinal rule for me. And
when in doubt, a good quality raw egg, obviously. A hard-boiled egg? No, you can't survive on that. It just destroys too many of the nutrients. The water-soluble vitamins are gone. If you would only eat hard-boiled eggs, you would be B vitamin deficient in no time.
A non-negotiable. At least 7 eggs a week. Try to get 3 to 5 per day. But if I'm not hitting 7 per week, something needs to change in my diet. I consider them delicious, nutritious, and a life force. Number 21, limit refined oils.
Okay, I'm gonna skip this one. This is obvious. Anybody who consumes some kind of seed oils, vegetable oils today is just lost anyway. You need to be cooking in animal fat if you cook at all.
Number 22 is another negative Nelly one, and that's avoid high caloric combinations of fats and carbs together. A, we're dealing with a glycation issue if they're consumed in high amounts, but B, that is the standard American diet. And that is exactly what's wrong with the United States, is high carbohydrate mixed with high saturated fat in one sitting. Literally, in a clinical setting, literally how they induce insulin resistance is by adding a high amount.
It's of course not that simple. It's because of the foods that you're eating, seeing as they are all full of vegetable oils, for example, as just mentioned. The thing is that if you would be eating actual natural food, as in fresh animals that you just hunted, then you would be getting glycogen from the blood, it's in the liver, in the muscle meat, but nowadays people don't eat liver, they don't drink blood, and the meat that they eat is already 2, 3, 4 weeks old. It's so dry that there's no carbohydrates left anymore. It's the carbohydrates, they are water soluble. You're supposed to be getting the fresh, juicy meat. And if you would be, then you would be getting a lot of fat, protein, and carbs. Not that many carbs, maybe 3, 4 times less carbs than people are getting nowadays when they eat the junk that they eat. Point being, that's how a natural meal looks like. There's a lot more to it than simply combining the 3 macronutrients.
Of saturated fat. And literally how they can induce inflammation is introducing high saturated fat and high sugar. We know.
No, not from natural foods. Not that I've seen any proof. Not that there could even be any proof, seeing as they don't do any studies, anything scientific when it comes to eating raw fat, blood, obviously, nothing like that. All that we can look at is for example, at what he's showing here, eating ice cream, yeah, then you have some pasteurized dairy, which causes atherosclerosis in itself already. It's inflammatory anyway because you're getting high amounts of calcium, which your body can't digest, assimilate. There's no enzymes. It's just dead, sugary, white liquid made into whatever they make, cottage cheese, cheese, ice cream. And then you have tons of artificial hormones also, and the sweeteners. It's just not actual natural food. You're not getting natural saturated fat and sugar. You're getting absolutely artificial food. And of course, if that's what you look at, then you're going to see an inflammatory response by your body. Not because it's simply fat and carbs. It's because it's garbage and garbage.
Oh, so much that it is a concept and a way to actually induce inflammation and problems. Do not combine high caloric fats and carbs together. That does not exist in nature. It does not belong in your body.
It doesn't exist in nature in the way that you're getting mostly carbs and some fat and protein, yes, but pretty much every natural meal is lower amounts of carbs, but still you're getting glycogen from the meat, and then good amounts of fat and protein. It's the other way around, but you're still getting quite some carbohydrates depending on which parts of the animal you get. And a lot of tribes also eat fruits and meat together because there are supposedly enzymes in the fruits which help you in the digestion of the meat.
Together. Number 23, your total volume load with your workouts is what matters. When you're trying to build...
Really, I'm not going to respond to this because working out should be the last thing that you do if you want to prolong your lifespan or age yourself less. Again, he's really the perfect example of this. And when you look at anybody who works out, especially if they're on PEDs, obviously that ages you the most, and you will see that they all look way older than they are. But even if you don't use any performance-enhancing drugs, you're still going to, of course, look older than anybody who doesn't. If you would take two people and study them, two twins, and one would be working out and the other not, then the one who works out would always look a lot older. He would have more wrinkles and he would die quicker just because of the extra stress, the cortisol, breaking down the collagen. That's why he would look older. Stress always ages you. Everybody always used to know this. Up until recently, it seems. That's why I'm skipping this point.
Number 25. I believe, and it's a non-negotiable for me, unless the literature came back so strong, which it seems to be going the other way from that, meat is a multivitamin. Red meat...
I like it. Yes, especially raw red meat.
...is a multivitamin. It has so many...
Obviously it is. It has every nutrient. It would be the definition of a multivitamin. I love how he has this overcooked meat, which of course doesn't have that many nutrients anymore, and then his flowers next to it. I think that he's trying to appeal to the masses. I get it. His channel is a business, but you can still promote healthy food and have your subscribers and people who follow you. You don't need to put the flowers in every shot as if you're trying to promote a healthy, balanced diet. There's really no need for it. I think that at this point, people get it. A lot of people understand that you should not be eating vegetables at all.
Vitamins and minerals that we seek out from a plethora, dozens of other foods that we can get in one simple serving. 1 or 2 servings. Doesn't mean you need to be a total meathead and eat 6 ribeyes per day and a brisket for dinner and then have...
You wouldn't need to be eating that much meat if you would be eating organs. If you eat some brain and liver, then you don't need that much, which again adds to your point 3. Less calories overall because you're eating more nutrient-dense foods.
Bone broth and stew meat for dessert. No one's saying that. But a moderate amount of red meat is nutritious.
The video wasn't that bad. The channel is also not bad overall. He does promote eating meat. The last point was, of course, a great one, except that he doesn't mention organ meats at all. Maybe that's one of his problems. He never actually tried eating really naturally. The guy probably has a lot of money from his channel, I'm just gonna assume, from selling the supplements and whatnot, he could easily go to any farm. I believe that he lives in California. I got blood in California when I was there. It's very easy. Didn't even cost anything. They don't even need money for it because they let the blood go to waste anyway. But whatever the case, he would easily have the money to get blood pretty much every day. He could drink blood in the morning, during the day, in the evening, during his workouts. If he wants to continue working out, he could then maybe stop using whatever else he's using there. It's obvious that he's on something. Anybody can see it. But instead, he still promotes the vegetables, flowers, green leaves, and seeds, and he didn't give one reason as to why you should be eating them. Meat is way more nutrient dense. Green leaves have almost no nutrients to speak of. Seeds also. Some indigestible protein. They are super hard on your gut, cause eczema because they destroy your gut. Even acne. There's just so many problems. Infertility. I'm not even gonna bother because really the health problems caused by green leaves, flowers, and seeds are insane. Most people would benefit so significantly from simply cutting out vegetables and seeds from their diets, but this is something that is so insanely hard for them. My point is simply that if Thomas would have actually tried drinking blood even a few times a week, but again, as I said, he could afford doing it every day, multiple times a day, and eating raw liver from healthy animals, which again, he could easily get, he can afford it, brain for the vitamin D, for your brain to function, DHA, EPA, he would right away know that that's what you're supposed to eat. He would right away get it. But when you eat overcooked meat with some kind of seeds and flowers, then you just don't fully get it. If you promote eating steak, any kind of muscle meat, you just won't realize it because you never really feel the way you're supposed to feel. You're never as healthy. You can just never reach that pinnacle of health. And that's why it's probably easy to fall for this lie and to never snap out of it. As I said, point number 3 was great, except that he didn't recommend the actually nutritious foods. Point 25 was also great, but he didn't actually recommend eating the most nutritious parts of the animal, the organs and the blood. And he recommends cooking the meat when you destroy a lot of the B vitamins, for example, even the fat-soluble vitamins. That's really his biggest problem, not realizing what you're naturally supposed to eat. If he would try it himself, I'm sure that a lot of these points would change. And if he would stop also working out, then he would realize even more how you actually increase your longevity and slow down the aging. My point is that he hasn't tried it himself. How could he then possibly recommend what you're actually supposed to do for longevity and anti-aging? If you don't experience it yourself, it's just impossible for you to realize it. Thanks for watching.